Giles Brown. Let's talk. And the time is 27 minutes to the top of the hour. Don't forget we go live to Cologne at 12 o'clock and Stephen Ritson for Europe today. Delighted to be welcoming onto the show though this morning, following just that announcement. Delighted to be joining me on the show, Alan Rode. He's written a new fictional novel called The Eagle and the Cockerel, but it's based on historical facts that he reckons that they don't want us to know. It looks at Europe, it looks at the struggle between some of the powers within Europe, and it looks where we are going in a post-Brexit and with the situation in Ukraine world. Delighted to be joining me live on the line from London, author of The Eagle and the Cockerel, Alan Rode. Alan, good morning to you.
Good morning to you all.
Good to have you with us. Explain, if you would, a little bit about the background to the fictional novel and a bit of your own background, which gives you a particular perspective on what was going on.
Yes, I was born in Italy. My father is English, my mother Italian, and I moved to the UK roughly 10 years ago. And it was, I think, in 2015 when I learned an interesting historical fact that in 1950, so just right after the Second World War, the German Chancellor Konrad Adenauer proposed in an interview to an American agency, a merger between France and Germany. And I said, what? It seems almost unbelievable because remember, Adenauer was a traditional, very reserved statesman. So he was not making tweets, late night tweets. So it was a serious proposition, even talk about shared institution. And it didn't mean the European Union that came to the light 5-6 years later. It meant a real country, single country. But you need to understand the situation. Germany was in tatters. France, by and large, in a similar situation after World War II. And Germany was at risk of seeing all her industries dismantled by the Allies. So it was a way out, not, I believe, the most pleasant way out for Germans. But the idea of a merger between France and Germany into single superpower was an idea yet. And he gave 2 interviews to the same outlet. And from this proposal has come my idea of a novel where there is an actual referendum on the unification on France and Germany. I'm not going to tell you the outcome. I don't want to spoil it.
Of course.
But it starts from politics. And then, of course, my editor told me, if you just focus on politics, it's going to be a bit dry. So there is action, there are twists, there are sentiments, 2 antagonizing characters with their strengths and weaknesses. So it's much more than politics. But the idea from Adenauer was the starting point, a merger between France and Germany. And I believe people would be curious to see the outcome nowadays.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because if you think about, shall we say, the interesting history between France and Germany, and France has been a nation for a very long time indeed, obviously, whereas Germany is a relatively new nation because of, it's only 1860, 1850, I think.
1871.
Thank you very much. There you go. Thank you very much indeed. And so, therefore, we regard perhaps that France and Germany have always been or has always regarded themselves as the industrial, the political, the cultural powerhouses of an engine room, if you like, of Europe. And everybody else, now that Great Britain has kind of, even more so now that Britain has left, everybody else is kind of hanging on the side. So the smaller nations, if you pardon the expression, Alan, because I know you're half Italian, such as Italy, such as Spain, such as Portugal, are directly influenced by that. And the new joining nations, so the former Baltic states, etc., really take their lead from what these two are doing.
Yeah, we need to consider that the EU was born to appease France and Germany regarding some areas close to the border between these two countries, some steel industries and so on. So yeah, they have always been protagonists of European integration. And even more now that the UK has left, because it's strange. The UK has always had a frictious relationship with the European Union, but it was an important part. So now, even more than in the past, France and Germany, they have a relationship, yes, of, I like to call it brotherly rivalry in many areas, but they feel a shared responsibility. Germany is the strongest economy. France has the strongest army. Together, they make more than half of the gross domestic products of Europe. So they clearly have a central role. All the other countries, yes, are probably have a lesser role. And many Eastern European countries within the EU, like Czech Republic and Poland, they rely on Germany. They want to feel protected by Germany also. Besides being important commercial partners, they see Germany as having a key role also in the Ukrainian crisis. So yes, definitely France and Germany are have laid the foundation of the European Union.
And when you look at the response that those particular two nations have had to crisis, say the war in Syria, with Germany throwing up its borders to immigrants under Merkel, and now the situation and how they handle that, the migrant crisis. And obviously, if you read some of the British press, they are full of stories about how France is handling the migrant, quote unquote, migrant crisis over there, and also the reaction to Ukraine. I mean, because obviously France was very, very proactive, was in there quite quickly supporting, and yet Germany seemed to hover for a while and then got involved. So that's perhaps a little crack maybe in the idea of them being one nation.
If you think, yes, for sure. But, I think Germany was more surprising. If you think that when Merkel said we can welcome 1 million Syrians, and she was a conservative leader, then there was a bit of pivoting there, and then now Germany is undertaking a return to armament under a social democratic chancellor. So it's Germany, I think, is more surprising. France has been more constant. We know the position of France towards immigration is quite clear, and Germany more surprising. First with Merkel and now with. So Germany is probably trying to find a new role, because after World War II, basically this country didn't have a full army, it was a very resized army, and the position towards immigration was not always consistent. So it's trying to find a new identity, maybe.
And when you've got a situation like this, and with Europe, they get, like I say, they're looking for a new role, and they're, the big, the traditional superpowers, the United States and the former Soviet Union, they were, but now we have China, we have India is always being talked as a superpower, basically. And so Europe maybe is looking for the role. I mean, the former British Prime Minister, Tony Blair, famously said that he wanted Britain to be the world, quote unquote, the world's policeman. And maybe Germany and France, and Europe, maybe see themselves in the role of perhaps not policeman, perhaps, but maybe peacekeeper.
Yes. Yeah. One fact is clear, that no single country in Europe is strong enough to compete with the new superpowers. I mean, new probably is not the right word, but China, India, and we have countries that within 20, 30 years will have huge populations, Nigeria, Pakistan. So it's either that European countries gather together and they extend the powers of the European Union, for instance, when it comes to foreign policy, which is still an area where each country has full prerogatives, basically. Or, you have the alternative, and I'm telling it jokingly, of a superpower between France and Germany, called Charlemagne in my book. It's fiction, but despite of the name, it's probably not so unrealistic. Right now, I believe the European Union must, as a personal standpoint, must increase their powers in other areas, non-economic areas, such as, for instance, the environment and probably foreign policy. And it's moving towards increasing powers in foreign policy. Even if each individual country, they would like to keep all the powers for themselves. I see the point in this, but it's going to be an area, foreign policy, like the environment, where we need to share our strength. Otherwise, individual initiatives will be fruitless.
But again, we now live in a society where popularism and the social media have taken a huge role in people's politics, especially in Europe. And if you think of how certain players in the United States have used broad strokes, if you like, to say these people are different, where they're coming from, or they can be a race, they can be a religion, whatever. And then you think of Europe, which is so many different cultural groups, even within countries, because somebody from a Breton is completely different from somebody from Provence, as somebody from Alsace-Lorraine is different from somebody in Munich, for example, or a Prussian or something like that. But do you think that Europe has seen this rise of populism and this sort of social media has perhaps again made it difficult for politics in Europe?
I think that traditional politicians, they probably didn't see coming. Yeah, there is a competition now between the old style politician with a cursus honorum, a formation within a party, and people coming from the media like Trump or even Zelensky, if you think, and moving towards politics with a different way of expressing themselves. It's a 24/7 news cycle. It's a very noisy society. It must be very difficult doing politics the old way. And another thing that's actually striking me, you no longer win election by highlighting your opponent's weaknesses or wrongdoings, because it seems it's not working. He hasn't worked with Trump. It's not working. Berlusconi never. Boris Johnson either. And I think you win election nowadays if you have a larger dream to propose to your public than your opponents. And this is where the media, the showman, the showbiz meets politics. It's becoming more and more entertainment, and that's a fact. That's a fact, and it must be very difficult doing politics the old way nowadays. It's becoming more and more show business.
Talking of politics and show business and populism, you're half Italian. I can't. And yesterday we saw the funeral in Milan of Silvio Berlusconi. Now there's a man who really does take. He took showbiz and personality and politics before social media. He was this figure, and everybody will always remember the phone call he took whilst Merkel was waiting for him, for example. So as somebody with a strong Italian background, what's your thoughts on the legacy perhaps that he will have? Because like him or loathe him, he was perhaps one of the most recognizable figures in recent political history in Italy.
Yeah, I had an argument with a friend yesterday. He's not a fan of Berlusconi, but he was saying Berlusconi will end up on history books. And I say no, because in my opinion, he doesn't have a substantial legacy. When your popularity or notoriety, as you want to put it, is based on economic power or on charisma, but there is no substantial legacy, I think you will be forgotten quite soon. There is no substantial legacy, and even his biggest fans, they struggle to address this matter because there is no huge social or economic reform under him. There is no huge public work. There is no, the bridge between Sicily or Calabria to boast, So I think it's a very flimsy legacy, and perhaps the biggest legacy is being lighthearted when it comes to rules, which is not a great legacy. But we shall see. I mean, time will talk. Definitely, yes, he had a huge charisma, and he was unpredictable, and he could become very, how can I say, really, even his opponents, he could hug them sometimes. And so it's one man of a kind for sure. But the political legacy is flimsy, and in my opinion, not a good one.
So when it comes to writing a work of fiction like The Eagle and the Cockerel, how much of it is actually fun? Because you might think, okay, I have all my pieces in place now let's see what happens. Because the idea. So do you have to find sometimes sort of with the storyline, try and keep where you see it's going to go, where you think what could possibly happen, and how much is to have a bit of fun with it, because it's not all serious.
Yes, it's my first book, so I don't have a pattern, but I can tell you that and I've started a second book and I'm following the same approach. I have 3 or 4 basic ideas throughout the book, but half of it is probably spontaneous. So I let it go. Sometimes it's easy, it's like cutting butter, writing. Sometimes it's cutting rock. So yes, but in the end I enjoy it. Otherwise, I would have given up. So it took 2 years and a half to write the book, if you include the editing process. And I had great editors, and they helped me immensely. And luckily enough, I don't have an Italian accent when I write.
Right.
And the audiobook, we have a wonderful French actress. She's bilingual, English and French. And she gave a new life to the book in the audiobook version. But yes, it was funny. I love politics. The second book will be not on politics, will be in the future, set in the future, reaching twists. The environment will play a big role. It's not going to be politics. This book, I believe you need to enjoy it. You need to like politics. If you find politics utterly boring, probably it's not the right thriller. But I enjoy writing, and the first feedback is positive from readers. And so let's see how it goes. But I enjoy doing it. That's the most important fact.
Well, the book is called The Eagle and the Cockerel. It's by Alan Rode, who I'm speaking to today. Plenty of interesting ideas. And yes, if you like politics and what ifs, I think that's the starting point from this one. If people want to find you online, Alan, I know there's a website, because I'm kind of looking at it now. And I know that you Twitter as well. So where can people find you on the social media and your website?
Yeah, I think alan-rode.com. But you can find me on Google, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn.
Okay.
So just Instagram and TikTok are missing. But
I think a political TikTok would be very good for The Eagle and the Cockerel. You wearing different outfits for each part, I think, yeah?
Okay, good. You will join me, okay?
Absolutely. Well, you can tell by my shirt, absolutely. The book is called The Eagle and the Cockerel. It will also be available as a virtual download from our own virtual bookstore. And that's Rode, spelt R-H-O-D-E, excuse me, Alan.
Yeah.
Alan-R-H-O-D-E.com. This book is called The Eagle and the Cockerel. It's by Alan Rode. Alan, thank you so much.